Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is a great covenant. This is a great covenant. Truth in love, and to help one another. Love is the Spirit. Love is the Spirit. Love is the spirit of this church. This church.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this virtual service of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Waynesboro. My name is Susan Clark, and I feel grateful to serve this warm, friendly, and healing congregation. I'm so glad you have made it online to join us today on this brand new morning in this brand new world as we gather together in peace. Thank you for joining us. We who bring a teaching of hope, we who bring a saving message, who welcome all in our doors, the joyful, the heartbroken, atheists and Christians, Muslims and Jews, straight and gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, all who are searching, seeking, looking for more meaning, more service, more love. All of us gathered here together to walk each other home. I'd like to welcome any guests visiting today. Thank you for taking a chance and taking the time to walk through our virtual doors and join us for worship. We hope to see you in person sometime in the very near future. If you have questions about Unitarian Universalism or about this fellowship, we invite you to seek answers by looking on our website, uufw.org, for contact information of the membership chair or Reverend Paul Oakley. Contact information will also be given at the end of this service. To everyone here, this community is what it is because of your presence. So welcome. Welcome into this space of love, support, justice, compassion, fellowship, and worship. Now I have some thoughts for lighting our chalice. We light our chalice, the symbol of our liberal and progressive faith and movement, with these words inspired by the Salem Covenant of 1629. We covenant with one another and do bind ourselves together in the presence of this religious community to express our deepest and most cherished convictions as they are borne by each person to find a common vision for a better world, to seek the life of the Spirit as it is known by each person, choosing with reverence its name, and to walk together in the way of truth and love, as it is shown to us and to all people in word and in deed.
Our words of prayer are by Tet Gustillo Gallardo. There's my temple, believer, unbeliever, or wild one, you are welcome. We have no definition of who we are but human. We have no code but that of respect. We have no creed but that of equality. There's my temple. Identity seeker, sinner, stateless or not, you are welcome. We have no constraints on expression but space. We have no code but to listen to poetry between the silence and the surrender. There's my temple. Nature tripper, urban dweller, or saint, you are welcome. How shall we divide the world but by our breaths? We have no pope above us, no infallible bull. We have no judgment but in terms of harm. There's my temple, history maker, marginalized, unorganized. You are welcome. We have no covenant among us but mutual assistance. We insist on no assumptions and doubt moral facts. We are free to theorize with emotion and call it hope. There's my temple. Unbecoming, expert, robe or disrobe, you're welcome. We have no dwarves or giants. Goliath fell long ago. We have no seal on revelation. Tentative is truth. Led by your desires. Serve by your power. There's my temple. Funny, temperamental, shy, or wise, you are welcome. There is not one way of being human, not even Superman. We have no world but that which we together create. There is as much wisdom in harmony as in dissent. Let us hold in our hearts together at this time the unspoken joys and sorrows of this caring congregation.
Art thou troubled? Music will calm thee. Art thou weary? Rest shall be thine. Rest shall be thine. Music, source of all gladness, heals thy sad sadness at her shrine. Music, music ever divine. Music, music calleth with voice divine. When the welcome spring is smiling, and the flowers of earth beguiling, after winter's weary rain, sweetest music doth attend her heavenly harmonies, doth lend her, chanting praises in her train, chanting praises in her train. Art thou troubled? Music will calm thee. Art thou weary? Rest shall be thine. Rest shall be thine. Music, source of all gladness, heals thy sadness at her shrine. Music, music ever divine. Music, music calleth with voice divine.
A Covenant Invites Relationship by Lisa Ward. A covenant is not a definition of a relationship. It is a framework for our relating. A covenant leaves room for chance and change. It is humble toward evolution. It claims, I will abide with you in this common endeavor, be present as best I can in our becoming. This calls for a level of trust, courage, and sacrifice that needs to be nurtured, renewed, and affirmed on a regular basis. A creed creates a static truth, something that does not incorporate new insights and realities. A covenant is a dance of co-creation, keeping in step with one another in the flow of our lives. A creed seeks uniformity and a unison voice. A covenant seeks harmony and a shared voice. Sometimes we may arrive at unison, but it is not required. A creed gives authority to the statement. A covenant gives authority to shared intention. A creed creates an us and them. A covenant invites relationship. A creed is a prescription that must be relied on. A covenant relies on the treasures of shared truth. The overall trust within this covenant is in the truth, capital T, something which no one person can fully see, yet something which each and every person can come to know in glimpses, in another's story, in epiphanies. Truth is ever changing in our seeking to understand because of our limited perspectives. We grow into a deeper sense of the meanings of all things when we take our journeys seriously with full heart and mind. The courage within this covenant is the acceptance and celebration of life with all of its challenges, pains, ironies, and joys. And the sacrifice within this covenant is the letting go of dogma, of assumptions, of control, and giving over to a greater wisdom which comes to us in bits and pieces. The task of this covenant is to take responsibility for the freedom we espouse. We know that we are interconnected, that what we do creates ripples of hope or despair, of affirmation or negation. What we do with and for one another is powerful and beyond our imagining.
When I was a junior in high school, The entire year throughout the curriculum was focused to the greatest extent possible on things American. American history was a course required of all juniors, and the literature component of the pre-college English class centered on specifically American literature. But the English class didn't simply deal with America. It focused specifically on New England, especially Massachusetts and its Puritan heritage, as if the religious background of the rest of the country didn't matter to how we expressed ourselves in the arts. Personally, my ancestors were mostly of English extraction, but only about 20% of them were New England Calvinists. The rest came to my Illinois home area along other geographical routes and with varying religious heritages too. Catholic, Episcopalian, Baptist, and Methodist, among other religious persuasions, just as much as that Calvinist Puritan background were part of my ancestors' lives. But junior English class, much like the invented story of that first Thanksgiving, made it seem that America is a country of Puritan heritage alone. We learned a lot about our country that was so partial as to be a lie. There is also the history of the identities and institutions we choose for ourselves. And for most watching this service, we have adopted an identity that is firmly rooted in Massachusetts Puritanism, no matter how progressive it gets or how far from those ancestors' theology we may be. Scratch a Unitarian Universalist, it is sometimes said, and you'll find a Puritan. Not in every detail, of course, but there is a core that continues. Our denominational history is much more complex than such a statement suggests, but our Unitarian forebears were the liberal grandchildren of conservative Puritans. They rejected many elements of that Calvinist theology, but they were still part of the culture that grew in the soil of that heritage. And if you strip away the theology they objected to, two main and closely entwined elements remain at the core: congregational polity and its reliance on covenant as the organizing principle. To this day, Unitarian Universalist congregations join freely together in an association of congregation whose seat of governance resides in each separate congregation and whose theological union is based on the free commitments of the members of the congregation to each other and of the congregations within the association to each other. In covenant. If you look at the bylaws of the Unitarian Universalist Association, of which our congregation and other UU congregations around us are the constituent members, the second article of that document includes the words, "We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote," and thereafter follows what we commonly call the 7 principles and the 6 sources, and additional language committing us to a path of religious pluralism. Our congregations today join each other in covenant and agreement, a promise to join in common cause with each other. Through much of the 19th and the 20th centuries, covenant was not the language many of our congregations turned to in establishing common cause, but in 2000 and 2001, in a 6-lecture series, the retired Reverend Alice Blair Wesley offered the topic of covenant as the men's lecture series for the year. And this is a prestigious lecture series in the Unitarian Universalist realm. And with her lecture series, attention again turned to that ancient topic of covenant in a renewed form. In the 5th of her 6 lectures, she said, "The root idea of our entire tradition is the covenant. A covenanted, free church is a body of individuals who have freely made a profoundly simple promise, a covenant. We pledge to walk together in the spirit of mutual love. The spirit of love is alone worthy of our religious loyalty. So we shall meet often to take counsel concerning the ways of love, and we will yield religious authority solely to our own understanding of what these ways are, as best we can figure them out, or learn, or remember them together." Together. Many times it has been said from our pulpit at UUFW, as well as when in other UU settings, that Unitarian Universalism is not a religion that depends in any manner on our believing the same things. Rather, that our shared identity and cohesion rely on our shared commitments aimed at building and rebuilding a world grounded in our core value of love. We don't often chant it as a mantra, but we could. We pledge to walk together in the spirit of mutual love for the world that needs our presence, our service, our vision, and our getting up to good trouble, increasing justice in the world around us. We pledge to walk together, and we don't need to believe the same things as the person sitting next to us on a Sunday morning to make that pledge, to be in that covenant with each other. Anne's reading today, written by Lisa Ward, points out the difference in value between an expectation of common belief and an expectation of common direction or common value. I recap: a creed creates a static truth, something that does not incorporate new insights and realities. A covenant is a dance of co-creation, keeping in step with one another in the flow of our lives. A creed seeks uniformity and a unison voice. A covenant seeks harmony and a shared voice. Sometimes we may arrive at a unison, but it is not required. A creed gives authority to the statement. A covenant gives authority to shared intention. A creed creates an us and a them. A covenant invites relationship. A creed is a prescription that must be relied on. A covenant relies on the treasures of shared truth. I like her musical analogy. A creed requires a unison voice while a covenant seeks harmony. One of the great features of such an analogy is that As music has grown and diverged over time, our ears have grown to understand harmonies where some in earlier generations might easily have heard only dissonance. Along came jazz and taught us that we can feel a richer harmony in dissonance than in the sweetest, simplest harmonies alone. Our diversity will reliably lead to a richer harmony, a more nuanced palette of understanding and commitment, a growth away from simplistic thinking into a complexity worthy of the world and the species into which we are born and come of age. Atheist and Christian, Buddhist and Jew and pagan can all sit together, share the doctrine of love together, and seek justice together, not in spite of, but because of the ways our different perspectives and beliefs and backgrounds call us all to make the world better tomorrow than it has been today and in the past. Our covenant is a covenant of love, which calls us not to think or believe, but to act together with love for each other and the world. This congregation does not have a separate, intentional, explicit document of covenant that we have negotiated and parsed together. Yet I would argue that we do still have a congregational covenant, much the way the English have a constitution that is not written in a single document the way the Constitution of the United States is. This fellowship has a covenant that consists of the various documents we have constructed and voted on. Our congregational covenant includes the commitments inherent in our bylaws, our policies, our vision statement, our mission statement, our status as an LGBTQ welcoming congregation, our commitment to the proposed eighth principle, our membership in the Unitarian Universalist Association, and the traditions of our movement and of our congregation. Our covenant exists in a network of mutuality and common cause with minorities and all oppressed persons and peoples. It exists in our commitment to continuously widen the circle of inclusion, to grow our sense of who we are and what the parameters of this us might be. Some congregations find it useful to write an explicit statement of covenant, much as we would write an explicit vision or mission statement. It is not a bad exercise in self-understanding and growth and commitment, but is not necessarily necessary either. If we grow in awareness of our commitments and are willing to grow who we are and what we stand for, maybe we have what we need already. But we could do a whole lot worse than Alice Blair Wesley's articulation of a Unitarian Universalist covenant for the 21st century. We pledge to move through the world together in the spirit of mutual love, love of self joined with love of the other, committed to continually widening the circle of love, justice, and inclusion. Ours is a covenantal faith, an inclusive faith, a faith in which we are co-creators of justice, moving into a dynamic future together. Amen, and blessed be.
Take courage, friends.
The way is often hard.
The path is never clear.
And the stakes are very high.
Take courage.
For deep down,
There is another truth.
You are not alone.
Here in reverence now we gather for the blessings we have known, with a pledge to one another that we journey not alone. Joy and sorrow make us wise into all that lives and dies. Love calls us on. Love calls us on. Words and deeds of those before us waken here to keep us strong. Blend our voices in the chorus of creation's living song. Courage bids us lift our eyes upward to the shining skies. Hope calls us on. Hope calls us on. Hope calls us on.
Take courage, friends.
Take courage, friends.
Take courage, friends.
You are not alone.
You are not alone.
you are not alone.
Loyal guides in love and duty, lead us with a trusted light. Blessed are they whose inward beauty shows the path of truth and right. Honor is their earthly prize. By their works we realize faith calls us on. Faith calls us on. We have shared a radiant hour when the truth has made us free, and the Spirit's gracious power dreamed of good that yet shall be. Right the path before us lies. Joyful pilgrims now we rise. Life calls us on. 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 Life calls us on.